It happens in a moment, quieter than a breath, gentler than sleep. One instant you are in your body, and the next, you are not. But instead of terror or confusion, what arises first is silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but of profound stillness, a soft spaciousness that seems to embrace you, not with arms, but with presence. You begin to notice something you've never felt so clearly before, an incredible lightness, as if every weight you've ever carried has suddenly dissolved. There is no pain, no fear, no need to breathe or blink, and most surprising of all, there is no panic. Just the strange realization that the story you were in has ended, and yet somehow, you still are. You're not floating, not exactly, you're simply not bound. Not by gravity, not by flesh, not by any of the limitations you believed were inseparable from your existence. For the first time, you feel what it's like to be consciousness without a container. And the feeling is not strange. It's familiar, deeply so. It's like remembering a song you loved long ago, the melody rising again in your awareness after years of forgetting. At first, your thoughts try to make sense of what's happening. The mind you once identified with kicks in automatically, grasping for logic, names, reasons. But as quickly as the questions arise, they fall away, because the answers aren't in words, they're in knowing. And what you know, with a clarity beyond all argument, is this: you are not dead. Not in the way the world taught you. You've simply woken up from a dream called life. It's strange to realize just how deeply that dream had hypnotized you. The routine of days, the stories you told about yourself, the chase for meaning through careers, relationships, even spiritual seeking, it all feels now like a vivid movie. A brilliant, emotionally charged projection you were fully immersed in, but you're not inside the screen anymore. You're watching it from a higher vantage point, detached, but not numb. Aware, but at peace. You may even look back and see your physical body, lying still, and yet there is no urge to return, there's no longing, only gentle reverence. That body served you well. It carried your soul through lessons, through laughter and heartbreak, through sleepless nights and unforgettable moments. You honor it, but you no longer mistake it for your identity. And now you are here. In the in-between, some have called it the veil, others, the astral realm. But what you find yourself in is something more subtle and sacred than any label can capture. This is not a place made of walls or boundaries. It's a dimension of consciousness itself, fluid, luminous, boundless. Here, time does not tick. It flows like a current outside of linear sequence. You can feel years stretch into seconds and moments expand into eternities. You realize you are not going anywhere, because here, movement is not about distance, it's about vibration. What you feel most of all is an overwhelming sense of home. Not the kind of home with furniture and keys, but the spiritual origin you've longed for in quiet moments on earth, without knowing what you were longing for. This is the space you've touched in dreams, glimpsed in meditation, felt when staring at the stars, the place between lives, the sacred pause between inhale and exhale. And yet, even now, the transition continues, because although you have left the body, you have not yet left behind all that came with it. Emotions still echo, thoughts still flicker. The residue of earthly attachment, regret, and identity clings gently to your field, like mist. You sense there is more work to be done before you move forward, but you are not alone. A presence approaches, not through footsteps, but through energy, a consciousness so familiar it brings tears to your awareness, if such a thing were possible here. This being doesn't speak, not with words, but you hear it fully. It doesn't touch, but you feel it completely. It is your guide, your mentor, your soul companion from beyond lifetimes. A being of light and depth that has walked with you through every incarnation, even the ones you've forgotten. Their energy radiates unconditional love, pure, unwavering, all-encompassing. And in their presence, you remember more. You remember that this place, this connection, this vast field of clarity is real. In fact, it is more real than anything you knew in the physical world. The illusion has lifted, the veil has parted, and the idea of death as an ending begins to feel laughable, almost childlike in its innocence. You see now that death was not a punishment or a punishment at all. It was an awakening, a return. There is no judgment here, no pearly gates, no wrathful gods or scales weighing sin. Instead, there is awareness, a sacred pause, a chance to realign, to understand, to choose what comes next. Because that's the secret no one ever told you. You choose. What happens next is not dictated by reward or punishment, but by resonance. What you carry within determines what you experience. And so, you wait, not idly, but intentionally. You begin the process of soul remembrance. You allow yourself to become still enough to hear what your higher self has been whispering all along. That is the gift of this realm. In this vast in-between, you are given space to reflect, to realign, and to remember who you truly are beyond names and titles, beyond fear and success, beyond even personality. You are essence. You are soul. You are the observer, the creator, the experiencer, all in one. And as you rest in that knowing, something beautiful begins to stir. A gentle pull, a subtle urge, not a craving or desperation, but a deep and sacred curiosity. Where will you go next? What lessons await? Which souls will join you on the journey? Which energies will you choose to incarnate into? But that comes later. For now, you are simply here, in the silence after the storm, the stillness after the song, a space between breaths. A moment of eternity. You are not lost. You are not broken. You have returned. And this is only the beginning. There comes a moment, after the initial transition, where the stillness begins to shift. The silence doesn't vanish, but it makes space for something more. A knowing arises, a soft summoning. Not as a voice or command, but as a gentle call deep within your being. You understand, without needing to be told, that it's time to look back, not out of guilt, not out of punishment, but because your soul longs to understand. And so, the life review begins. You're not alone in this moment. You feel the presence of beings around you, light-filled, calm, deeply loving. You may not recognize them by name, but their energy feels familiar, even ancient. They've been with you for longer than any human memory could reach. You feel no fear in their presence, only peace, only support. They are your spiritual mentors, your soul's companions. They are not here to judge you, they are here to help you remember. And then, you see it, your life. Not in fragments, not as a series of photos or highlights, but in motion, alive. It unfolds before you like a beautifully woven film, except you are not just watching, you are feeling. Every moment, every breath, every interaction plays out, and you are present with it all. You watch yourself as a child, innocent, open-hearted, unburdened. You see the wonder in your eyes, the raw curiosity, the way you reached out to the world before the world told you who you were supposed to be. And as the years pass in this panoramic unfolding, you see how that innocence was shaped, sometimes nurtured, sometimes bruised, by circumstance, by belief, by fear, by love. You witness yourself growing, choosing, reacting, reaching. You watch the moments you stood tall in integrity, even when no one was watching. You feel the courage of your yeses, the consequences of your no's. You remember the times you gave more than you had to give, the times you shut down when someone needed you most, the moments you loved deeply, and the moments you held back out of fear. But here's what makes this experience so profound. You're not just seeing your life from your own eyes. You're feeling it from the perspective of others, too. When you laughed with someone, you feel how it lit them up. When you ignored someone's pain, you feel the sting of their silence. When you spoke kindness, you feel the warmth that echoed into their spirit. And when you lashed out from your own wounds, you feel how it echoed into theirs. There is no shaming, no divine scolding, no fiery judgment. There is only truth, and with that truth comes freedom. You begin to understand why you made certain choices. Not all of them were wise, not all of them were loving, but none of them were meaningless. Every act, every word, every thought, even the ones you dismissed as small, had a ripple, not just outwardly, but inwardly. You see how your patterns formed, how your fears masked themselves as anger, how your unmet needs silently shaped your relationships. And you see the turning points, those sacred crossroads where you could have chosen differently. There is a soft ache in this clarity, not regret in the way you once knew it, but a deep, tender awareness of what could have been. Yet, that ache is not your punishment, it is your teacher. It invites you to expand, to forgive, to understand not only what you did, but why you did it. You begin to see the theme of your life, not just the events, but the deeper soul journey beneath them. Perhaps your life was about learning to trust, to let go, to speak your truth. Or maybe it was about reclaiming your worth, no matter who tried to take it from you. Through this higher lens, the so-called mistakes become guideposts. The heartbreaks become revelations. Even the chaos begins to make sense. You realize something that shifts you forever. You were never expected to be perfect. Your soul didn't come into physical form to live a flawless life. It came to evolve, to learn, to fall and rise and fall again, to become aware. And in this place, this sanctuary of reflection, you are finally able to see how every part of your journey served that sacred purpose. The mentors by your side remain silent, but their presence speaks volumes. Their love does not waver as you revisit your darkest moments. If anything, their compassion only deepens. Because they see the fullness of who you are, not just the moments when you shined, but the moments when you forgot your light and still chose to rise again. You begin to understand the power of your choices, the things you said to a stranger in passing that changed their day, even if you never knew, the moment you forgave someone and released both of you, the pain you held inside rather than passing it on, the decision to love, even when love wasn't returned. These were the quiet victories, the ones your soul remembers long after the body is gone. And yes, you also see where you held back, where you silenced your truth, doubted your worth, withheld your love. You see how fear ran the show more often than you realized. But instead of drowning in shame, you feel a deep resolve awakening in you, a desire to do better, to choose more consciously, to bring more of your soul into the next life. That is the gift of the review. It is not a courtroom, it is a classroom, and you are both the student and the teacher. You are not here to be condemned, you are here to evolve. What surprises you most is that the review does not dwell on your accomplishments, your bank account, your reputation, or your titles. Those things are acknowledged, yes, but not celebrated. What matters is how you made people feel, how aligned you were with your truth, whether you allowed love to move through you, or fear to stop you. And now, having seen it all, you feel something opening, a door, a possibility. The next chapter calls to you, not as an obligation, but as an invitation, because now, you are equipped. You are aware, you are awake. Your soul knows what it still longs to understand. It knows where it struggled and where it soared. It knows what needs balancing, what needs healing, and what gifts are ready to be expressed more fully in the life to come. This review, this sacred reflection, is not the end. It is the foundation. From here, you will begin the extraordinary process of designing your next incarnation. But not just any life, a life chosen with purpose, with clarity, with love. You feel the mentors surrounding you once more, their presence wraps around you like light itself. And as you move forward, one truth remains, etched into the core of your being. Nothing was wasted, nothing was meaningless. And nothing, absolutely nothing, was outside the reach of your soul's growth. You might think the journey ends after the review, that once you've seen your life laid bare, you simply drift peacefully into light. But for the soul, clarity always births curiosity. After the sacred remembrance of who you were, another calling rises. Who are you becoming? What begins now is less about memory and more about momentum. Your soul, ancient and wise, starts stirring with a deep hunger, not a craving born of lack, but a sacred desire to expand, to integrate, to evolve. You feel it like a pulse, like a soft drumbeat within your field. You realize that everything you've just witnessed, all the choices, the joys, the regrets, they weren't isolated experiences. They were threads in a vast tapestry, part of a larger rhythm, a deeper pattern, one that has stretched across many lifetimes. And so, you begin to see more. Not just the movie of your last life, but glimpses, snapshots of other journeys, different faces, different roles, different bodies, accents, eras. Some lives were long, others short. Some were filled with service, others with suffering. Some were powerful, others silent and unseen. But all of them share something in common. They were trying to teach you something. And now, in this in-between, you begin to understand the lessons you still haven't fully learned. It's subtle at first. You feel a theme arising, perhaps a struggle with abandonment, or a pattern of mistrust. Maybe a fear of not being enough, or a recurring resistance to vulnerability. You see these patterns not only in your last incarnation, but echoed throughout lifetimes. Different names, same wounds. Different circumstances, same choices. You begin to recognize the karmic threads, the invisible energetic imprints carried from one life to the next, still seeking resolution, still aching to be acknowledged. You don't feel shame as you notice them. In fact, there's a kind of awe in the realization, because now, it all makes sense. That complicated relationship you had with your parent, that fear of love you could never quite explain, that moment when life forced you to your knees again and again, demanding you to surrender something you kept clinging to, those weren't random. They were echoes, part of a soul curriculum tailored specifically for your growth. And now, you're starting to see it. You realize that even your suffering had an intelligent design, that nothing in your path was cruel or coincidental. Life wasn't punishing you, it was reminding you of the unhealed spaces within, the places still constricted, the gifts still buried beneath fear, the truths you refused to claim. You feel this recognition deep in your being. It's like standing before a mirror that reflects not your body, but your entire soul's arc. And what you see is a soul that has been trying earnestly, bravely, even if imperfectly, to grow. This is your evolutionary checklist, not one written in ink or decreed by cosmic judges, but an energetic imprint created by you, for you. And now, in this space between lives, you get to look at it with loving clarity. You see where you have momentum, areas of growth that you have already embodied across lifetimes. Perhaps you've developed great compassion, learned to forgive, or cultivated a steady sense of inner strength. You feel pride in those areas, not ego pride, but soul pride. A quiet recognition that you've walked through fires and come out softer, not harder. That you've chosen light even when darkness offered an easier path. But you also see where you're still circling the same mountain, avoiding the same confrontation, shrinking back from the same mirror. You see how fear disguised itself as logic, how defensiveness became a mask for shame, how control was often your substitute for trust. These aren't failures, they're unfinished lessons, invitations waiting to be accepted. What's most humbling is realizing how your external circumstances have always mirrored your internal evolution. The chaotic relationships, the recurring setbacks, the dreams that never quite landed, they weren't punishments. They were messages, feedback loops, echoes of the deeper curriculum your soul signed up for. You understand now why you kept being drawn to certain people, some who loved you deeply, and others who hurt you profoundly. Each soul played a role. Some mirrored the love you forgot to give yourself. Others triggered the pain you refused to look at. All of them, in their own way, were helping you remember. You feel immense gratitude, even for the difficult ones. Because now you see them not as enemies or mistakes, but as allies in disguise. Some souls entered your life with tenderness, others with fire. Some showed you your strength, others exposed your wounds. But all of them helped you see yourself more clearly. And now, you are ready to take that clarity into your next incarnation. But before you can choose the next body, the next family, the next experience, your soul wants to understand one thing. What remains unfinished? You let this question settle into your awareness. You don't rush the answer. In this space, there is no time, only alignment. And as you breathe into the silence, the answers begin to rise. Maybe it's time to learn how to love without losing yourself. Maybe it's time to stop hiding your voice. Maybe you've carried generations of fear in your lineage, and this time, you're ready to break the pattern. Or maybe you're simply ready to remember joy, not as a fleeting moment, but as a way of being. Whatever it is, you feel it calling you, not as a duty, but as a sacred pull. You feel your soul's longing. It's not the kind of longing that aches for something external, it's a yearning to integrate. to become more whole, to return to love, to truth, to light, but to do so through experience, through contrast, through living, because the soul doesn't evolve through theory. It evolves through embodiment. And so, you begin to feel a new energy rising within you, not just reflection, but readiness. You want to dive back in. Not blindly, not to escape, but with full awareness. You want to take what you now know and apply it, test it, live it, be it. But first, you must choose the conditions that will best support your next evolution. The relationships, the settings, the challenges, and yes, the miracles. You must decide what pain you are ready to transform, what strength you are ready to reclaim, and what love you are ready to become. This next chapter isn't about proving yourself. It's about becoming yourself more fully. And this checklist, the karmic threads, the recurring dynamics, the spiritual themes, they are not weights holding you down, they are keys. They are blueprints, they are the map your soul left for you, hidden in plain sight. And now, for the first time, you can read it. You might have believed, while on earth, that your life was something handed to you, that your circumstances were dealt by luck, fate, or some divine force outside of your control. Maybe you were taught to see karma as a cosmic ledger, a balance sheet of sins and virtues, endlessly tallying your worth. Or maybe you felt trapped, like your soul was caught in some grand machine, cycling through lifetimes without a say in the matter. But now, standing here in the clarity of spirit, that illusion begins to fall away. You feel something deeper stirring within you, something vast, sacred, and astonishingly personal, your free will. Not the reactive will you exercised in your last life, the one that sometimes came from fear, impulse, or woundedness. This is something more profound. It's the original power you carried into every incarnation, the power to choose not only your actions, but your path. Not just what happens to you, but how your soul responds, grows, and evolves through it all. You feel it now like a current of light moving through your being. This is not the will of the ego. It's the will of the soul. And that soul? It is not bound by chains of obligation or the weight of punishment. It is not being sentenced. It is selecting. That realization changes everything. You begin to see that nothing in the soul realm is forced. There are no punishments handed down by angry gods, no external verdicts being cast. There is only resonance, there is only clarity. You, as a soul, are offered choices, vibrational options that align with the growth you're ready to embrace. You choose not out of fear, but from a knowing that whatever lies ahead will serve you in becoming more of who you truly are. And so, karma, once misunderstood as retribution, reveals its true form. Karma is not a cosmic punishment, it's a pattern, a reflection, a teacher. It mirrors the energy you've carried across lifetimes, not to shame you, but to give you the opportunity to shift it, to complete it, to transcend it. In this space of soul awareness, you look back on karmic loops and recognize their purpose. You see that they weren't traps, they were invitations. When you kept attracting the same kind of relationship, or repeating the same type of struggle, the universe wasn't punishing you. Your soul was presenting you with another chance to respond differently, to rise instead of collapse, to love instead of defend, to awaken instead of numb. You weren't being punished, you were being given a pathway to reclaim your power. And now, in this between lives realm, your power is not theoretical, it's alive. You feel it as you consider the vastness of what's possible. You realize that your next life isn't something that will be assigned to you. It's something you will co-create, with intention, with wisdom, with love. You feel the weight and beauty of that responsibility. Because to choose freely is not just a right, it is a sacred act, the act of divine authorship. You are not just a soul waiting for instructions. You are a consciousness capable of designing the perfect conditions for your evolution. And what you choose next will not be based on convenience or ease. It will be based on truth. That truth is written into your energetic field now, clearer than ever. You feel the areas where growth still beckons. You know where the sharp edges of your soul long to be softened, where the walls want to become windows, where the fire wants to become light. And, from that place of knowing, You begin to imagine the life that could hold all of it. You may choose a body born into hardship, not because you want to suffer, but because you know strength is forged there. You may choose a path of service, not for recognition, but because your heart wants to expand beyond self. You might choose to experience loss, not because you enjoy pain, but because it teaches you the kind of love that holds without clinging. You also recognize that not every lesson must be learned through struggle. Some souls choose lives of grace, ease, or artistry. Some come to earth to anchor joy, to inspire beauty, to remind others of peace. There is no hierarchy of worthiness here. Every path is sacred when it is chosen with clarity. You look at the options before you, not in a linear list, but as energetic timelines, possibilities that shimmer in the field of potential. Each life pulses with its own set of circumstances, relationships, challenges, and gifts. And with the help of your guides, you begin to discern which experience will stretch me into the next evolution of my being. This is the moment where free will meets divine intelligence, because though you are choosing, you are never choosing alone. Your guides do not choose for you, but they illuminate your blind spots. They reflect to you what you might overlook. They whisper encouragement when fear tries to intervene. Their presence is not authoritative, it is devotional. And so, you walk through each potential life with them, feeling into the body, the family, the culture, the energy you would be stepping into. You explore how that life might awaken certain soul gifts, or challenge old fears, or help you balance what remained unresolved. You begin to feel a pull, a resonance with one particular life path. It's not the easiest, not the most glamorous, but it carries something vital, the exact conditions that will help you remember more of your truth. When you say yes to it, there is no booming voice declaring your decision. There is only alignment, like a lock clicking open, a frequency matching your intention. A ripple of purpose moving outward into the cosmos. You have chosen, not because you were told to, not because you had to, but because your soul is always reaching toward the light. Always moving toward wholeness, always choosing its own becoming. And with that, a peace washes over you, the kind of peace that only comes from sovereignty, because now you know the truth. You were never a pawn, you were never a victim of fate. You were never abandoned by the divine, you were always free, even when you forgot, even when it felt like life was something happening to you. Even when you stumbled through darkness, doubting everything, you were still the author. And now, with your next story written in light, you are ready to live it. Now that you've remembered the truth of your free will, a deeper inquiry arises, one not of the mind, but of the soul. The question is simple, yet profound. What kind of life do I need now? Not what kind of life you want, not what would feel most comfortable or impressive, but what life will best ignite your next level of growth. This is the sacred crossroad where vision meets purpose, where memory becomes momentum, and where your soul begins the intricate process of choosing its next incarnation. You are not rushed. In the realm between lives, time stretches like breath. You are held in a field of stillness where every consideration can unfold fully. This isn't a decision made hastily, it's a sacred design. A blueprint crafted not from ego or emotion, but from wisdom, from clarity, from resonance. You begin by returning to what you've just seen, the ripple effect of your previous life, the lessons half learned, the patterns still echoing in your field. You ask yourself, what do I need to complete? What parts of myself are still fragmented? Where am I ready to soften, expand, forgive, awaken? These questions aren't academic. They vibrate through your entire being. And as you sit with them, something beautiful happens. You start to feel possibilities. Each possibility begins as a feeling, not a thought. You sense the energetic flavor of a life before you see any specifics. One may carry the dense texture of hardship and resilience. Another feels fluid, creative, and emotionally expansive. Some carry the quiet undertones of solitude, while others pulse with community, movement, and fire. The blueprint of a life isn't a fixed script, it's a vibration, a field of potential that you're learning to interpret with spiritual intuition. You begin to explore these lives, not as fantasies, but as pre-incarnational previews. You're given a sense of the energies, themes, relationships, and environments that each option holds. And what's most important is how you respond to them. Some make your soul contract, others make it stir. You find yourself drawn to the paths that challenge you, not out of masochism, but out of purpose. Because now, with all your awareness intact, you understand something that few people on earth truly grasp. Comfort does not always mean growth. A life of ease, of love, of abundance, yes, it can serve the soul powerfully, especially if you've known lifetimes of hardship, persecution, or isolation. Sometimes the soul needs to rest, to be nourished, to remember joy. There is deep value in a life where trust is natural, where relationships are gentle, where beauty is present. But even those lives are chosen intentionally. Because ease, too, comes with its own curriculum. Will you stay present when things are flowing? Will you use your gifts when you no longer need to fight? Will you remember the divine when life is generous? And then there are the lives of challenge, the ones that include early loss, betrayal, illness, loneliness, the kinds of lives that look, from the outside, like cosmic injustice. But now you know better. You see that souls sometimes choose intense paths not because they enjoy pain, but because those conditions act as catalysts. They activate dormant parts of the soul. They awaken wisdom that would never surface in comfort. They strip away illusions and force a person to meet the truth. You've lived both kinds of lives before. Some where you floated, others where you shattered and rebuilt yourself from ash. And now, in this moment of divine authorship, you consider which experience your soul is truly ready for, not what you prefer, but what will evolve you. Your guides stand beside you, not steering, but supporting. They offer subtle insights. They hold mirrors to the lives you are previewing. They gently remind you of the soul gifts waiting to be activated, the karmic threads waiting to be completed, the service you've promised to offer when the time was right. And then, you begin to feel it. One path stands out, not because it's easy or impressive, but because it rings true. Its frequency moves through you, like a song you didn't realize you knew. You sense the unique combination of growth and purpose it holds. Perhaps it includes pain, but that pain feels necessary, even sacred. Perhaps it includes joy, but it is not shallow. This life has depth, texture. It feels like a container strong enough to hold the next evolution of your soul. You lean in closer. You feel the contours of your potential family, the emotional environment you would be born into, the challenges you might face in early childhood, the culture, the energy of the land, the spiritual resources available, or the absence of them. Every piece matters. Each choice is deliberate. And then come the threads of mission. You feel your future pulling at you, not with obligation, but with magnetism. You sense the people who are waiting for you, the ones your presence will activate, comfort, or challenge. You feel the whispers of a mission-based life, not necessarily public, not always grand, but deeply important. Maybe you are to be a healer in disguise, a quiet teacher, a disruptor of cycles, a builder of bridges. Mission-based lives are not chosen for ego. They're chosen when the soul knows it's time to offer as much as receive. You recognize the responsibility, but also the power, the chance to become the very thing you've been seeking across lifetimes, to embody compassion instead of seeking it, to be the source of healing you never received, to bring light into spaces you once feared. This is not fantasy, this is design. This is you taking part in a cosmic architecture so precise, so intelligent, that every detail of your future life holds meaning. Nothing is random. Not your gender, not your skin color, not your birth location, not even the time in history you'll return to. Every element contributes to your soul's evolution and the evolution of the world you will enter. And as you sit in this awareness, you realize something quietly miraculous. You are not just preparing to live again, you are preparing to create again. To create experiences, relationships, change, and meaning. Not from scratch, but from soul memory, from spiritual readiness, from love. This is what it means to choose your blueprint, not to micromanage every event, but to say yes to a vibrational path, to entrust your future self with the task of remembering, to step into the unknown with purpose, to align your soul's highest longing with the canvas of earth once more, and as the decision settles in your being, A deep peace floods your awareness. Not because the road will be easy, but because it will be true. And there is no peace greater than choosing your next life from that place of alignment. As your next life begins to crystallize in the blueprint of your soul's awareness, another truth begins to surface, quietly at first, then unmistakably. You will not be returning alone. This next incarnation, like all the others before it, will be woven through with connections, some soft and nurturing, others intense and challenging, but none of them accidental. You feel the energy of certain souls already beginning to orbit your awareness, as if the magnetic pull between you has never truly ceased. And in this space between lives, you're finally able to see what has always been operating beneath the surface: soul contracts. Not contracts in the way you knew them on Earth, not legal bindings or rigid rules, but sacred agreements, energetic promises made from one soul to another, long before form, name, or face existed. These contracts are not about control, they are about growth. They are not designed to dictate your life, but to guide its unfolding, to ensure that certain lessons, awakenings, and transformations will have the conditions they need to arise. You begin to remember the nature of these agreements. You see the moments when you, as a soul, sat with others in this very realm, souls you've danced with across lifetimes, and you spoke not in words, but in intention. You felt the need for a lesson, and they offered to help you learn it, sometimes through love, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through roles you would never have imagined playing with each other. You see, now, that the people who come into your life are not just strangers or coincidences, they are echoes of an agreement, participants in your evolution. Some will come to show you the love you forgot you deserved. Others will challenge you to finally break the cycles you've repeated for centuries. Some will hold your hand as you remember who you are. Others will press every wound you carry until you can no longer look away. And while it may be tempting to see these contracts as fate, as unchangeable destinies, you now understand the nuance. These are agreements, not prisons. They are opportunities, not obligations. They are the soul's way of ensuring it doesn't forget what it came to learn, when the density of physical life makes everything feel fragmented. One of the most potent contracts you'll revisit before returning is with the souls who will become your parents. Choosing them is not always about love or comfort. Sometimes, it's about karmic resolution. Other times, it's about creating the perfect stage for your evolution. You may choose a nurturing mother to learn safety after lifetimes of war. Or you may choose an emotionally distant father to force you to cultivate self-love. Sometimes, both parents are part of your soul group, souls who have walked with you through lifetimes. Other times, they are simply the right vibrational match to birth the version of you that your soul needs next. You don't choose your parents for their perfection, you choose them for their precision. The same is true for your soulmate contracts. These are the souls who meet you in the center of your transformation. Not all of them are romantic. Some are friends, siblings, mentors, rivals. Even strangers who show up once, shift everything, and disappear. A soulmate is not someone who completes you, but someone who reflects you back to yourself with such clarity that your illusions cannot survive in their presence. In this pre-birth space, you feel their energy like a whisper through time. You may not see their next name or face, but you recognize the soul. The agreement is palpable, a mutual nod of remembrance. A sacred handshake across dimensions. You say to each other, "I will help you remember, and you will help me remember." You may even choose to trade roles this time. The one who betrayed you before may now be the one who saves you. The one you left behind may now be the one who never gives up on you. This is the exquisite depth of soul contracts. They transcend identity. They are not about punishment or reward, but about evolution. They are the ways in which you and others conspire, on the level of soul, to wake each other up. You begin to understand why certain people were so difficult to let go of, why some connections felt inexplicably magnetic or devastatingly painful, why love sometimes arrived when you were least ready, and why others vanished when you needed them most. It wasn't chaos, it wasn't cruelty, it was timing, it was agreement, it was design. Even the painful connections begin to shimmer with new meaning. The betrayal that broke you, it cracked open a part of you that had been hidden under layers of fear. the abandonment that hollowed you out? It forced you to meet the depth of your own presence. These weren't detours from your spiritual path, they were the path. And now, you carry that knowing forward into the next chapter, not with fear, but with reverence. You understand that when someone walks into your life in the next incarnation, your soul will already recognize them. There will be a familiarity beneath the surface, an invisible thread pulling you toward the lesson or the gift they bring. You may not remember the details of these contracts once you're back in a body. The veil of forgetting is part of the plan, it's what makes the journey real. But your soul will remember through resonance, through the pull in your heart, through the ache of recognition in your bones. You will know, because these contracts are not held in ink or stone, they are held in light, in vibration, in the sacred agreement made by two souls who chose to grow, together, apart, in harmony, in friction, but always in service to truth. This is the mystery of soul contracts. And now, it is no longer a mystery to you. Among all the choices your soul makes before returning to earth, few carry the weight and complexity of this one. Who will bring you into the world? Who will be the vessels through which you are born? It may seem, from the human perspective, like chance or biology, but from the soul's view, it is an intricate decision rooted in karmic resonance, vibrational alignment, and divine timing. You are not randomly assigned to a family, you choose, not always for comfort, not always for ease, but always for evolution. The moment you begin to explore this choice, you feel the pull of ancestral lines, threads of energy that stretch back generations. You are not just choosing two individuals, you are choosing a lineage, a history, a field of energy that has its own stories, wounds, gifts, and patterns. You scan their emotional terrain like a map, feeling the currents of unresolved trauma, inherited beliefs, cultural imprints, and spiritual strengths. And from this wider view, you begin to ask, what will this environment awaken in me? What will it challenge? What will it mirror? Sometimes, the soul chooses to be born into a family rich with love and support, a place where the heart is nurtured, where safety is taught through presence, where belief in one's worth is a natural inheritance. These families are sacred in their own right. They are incubators for souls who need to rest, to remember joy, or to grow through connection rather than contrast. They offer the chance to blossom without the backdrop of pain. But this is not the only path. In many cases, the soul chooses something much harder, a home that is fractured, a parent who is emotionally unavailable, a father who abandons, a mother who criticizes, a household that is cold, chaotic, or silent. These choices are not made out of recklessness, they are made with deep deliberation. Because sometimes the soul knows it will grow stronger when it must learn to source love from within. Sometimes, abandonment becomes the mirror that teaches self-belonging. Sometimes, the absence of safety births the fiercest kind of inner power. You may question why a soul would choose pain, but you now understand, pain is not the goal. Evolution is. And pain, when moved through consciously, becomes a powerful teacher. It exposes. It sharpens. It forces truth to the surface. The soul does not seek suffering for its own sake, but it recognizes that resistance, rejection, and rupture can catalyze profound remembrance. These are the fires in which clarity is forged. As you hover in this space between lives, you begin to feel into different familial dynamics. You preview the energies of mothers who are nurturing and intuitive, but also overprotective. Fathers who are ambitious, strong, but emotionally shut down. Grandparents who carry secrets. Siblings who will serve as allies or antagonists. Each configuration holds a different lesson, a different medicine. You begin to weigh the options. Would you rather be supported in your early years and slowly learn to individuate? Or would you rather enter into challenge right away, forge yourself in adversity, and awaken quickly to your inner strength? Neither is wrong, both serve. It is a question of readiness, of intention, of resonance. What surprises you is how precise this decision is. Your soul is not only choosing the emotional dynamics, but also the spiritual frequency of the household, the values passed down unconsciously, the traumas that remain unspoken. You feel into how those energies will interact with your own blueprint, how they will either reinforce your karmic tendencies or call you to transcend them. Some families will validate your existing beliefs, others will challenge them so completely that your awakening will be inevitable. You feel into the weight of ancestral karma, patterns of abandonment, addiction, control, shame, and ask yourself, am I ready to be the one who breaks this cycle? Sometimes, your soul agrees to take on that role, not as martyr, but as alchemist. To transform what has gone unhealed for generations. To be the light bearer in a lineage that has forgotten its radiance. You realize that your parents are not random strangers you meet once and call family. They are soul allies, or karmic counterpoints, who have agreed to play the roles you most need. Sometimes those roles are soft and nourishing. Other times, they are sharp, awakening, even painful, but always, they are sacred. You may choose a mother who leaves early, not to abandon you, but to spark your independence. A father who is harsh, not to diminish you, but to challenge your voice. A family that doesn't understand you, not to exile you, but to force you to understand yourself. These are not punishments, they are catalysts. Each parent, in their own way, becomes a mirror. An initiator, a guardian of the fire that will forge you into who you came to become. And as you sit with these options, something deep within you stirs, a kind of love that transcends personality. You begin to see your future parents, not for who they are on the surface, but for who they are as souls. You feel their own struggles, their own forgotten dreams, their own unhealed wounds. And even if they never fully understand you in the life to come, even if they fail to love you in the way you deserve, you know this one thing: they agreed to be the ones who welcome you back into the world. That is no small offering. You may even meet with their souls here, briefly. You exchange not promises, but presence. A quiet knowing passes between you. They may not remember this agreement once they're born. They may never awaken fully in the life you share. But on some deep, invisible level, your souls will always remember. And that remembering is what binds you, not in chains, but in sacred purpose. When the decision is made, it doesn't feel like a contract being signed. It feels like a door opening, a vibration aligning. A current flowing in one direction, toward embodiment, toward birth, toward the next experience of becoming. You have chosen the ones who will shape your entry, not to define you, but to refine you. And that choice, made in the clarity of the soul, will echo long after the veil has returned. Once your soul enters the body, and the veil of forgetting descends, something extraordinary begins to unfold: your childhood. To the human mind, it may seem like a phase of vulnerability, of dependency, a time to simply grow and be protected. But to your soul, childhood is far more than a beginning. It is an initiation, a sacred trial by fire and love, a carefully chosen emotional training ground designed to awaken what you came here to remember, and to challenge what you came here to release. Even as a newborn, though you cannot speak, your energy is absorbing everything. You feel the room before you understand the language. You register safety, or the absence of it, not through logic, but through the field. And this is where the true initiation begins. Because whether you are born into a house of warmth or a home of silence, your soul is already reading the codes beneath the surface. Every glance from your parents, every word spoken in anger or affection, every emotional undercurrent that ran unspoken through the halls of your childhood home, all of it becomes the texture of your earliest understanding of love, power, identity, and belonging. But what you now realize, from this higher vantage point, is that your soul placed you there with purpose, not to punish you, not to reward you, but to provide the exact conditions required for your first awakening. Some are born into love so they can remember how to hold it. Others are born into dysfunction so they can learn to rise above it. Some inherit joy, others inherit pain. But all inherit a legacy, an emotional lineage that must either be repeated or transcended. That is the crux of the initiation. You begin to see the patterns passed down to you, not as failures of parenting, but as echoes of unresolved karma. That ancestral shame you carried in your chest, it didn't begin with you. It ran through generations. That silence that hung in your home, that fear of speaking your truth, that need to be perfect just to feel loved, these were not born from your individual shortcomings. They were inherited codes, and yet, your soul said yes to them, because it knew you could be the one to transmute them. It's in this context that even your deepest childhood wounds begin to shimmer with sacred significance. That moment when you felt unseen by a parent, it awakened the part of you that longed to see yourself. The emotional neglect, it forced you to cultivate an inner anchor. The sibling rivalry, the bullying, the betrayal, the isolation, all of it formed the alchemical environment where your soul could begin its work of remembering. Of course, as a child, you didn't know any of this, you didn't remember choosing any of it, you just felt it all, the confusion, the longing, the aching questions. Why am I like this? Why don't they understand me? Why does it hurt so much to just be me? Those questions were not signs of something broken within you, they were the flickers of awakening. Because initiation is not soft, it is not polite, it doesn't arrive with ceremony or announcement. It arrives in the ache of not fitting in the sting of being punished for your sensitivity. In the quiet moments where you felt utterly alone, that is where the spiritual journey begins, not on a meditation cushion, but in the silent rooms of your childhood heart. You now understand that family harmony is not inherently more spiritual than family dysfunction. Each dynamic holds its own curriculum. Some come into lives where everything feels aligned, safe, and whole, because their soul needs to remember how to expand without resistance. Others are born into chaos, because their soul is ready to transmute generational pain. One path is not higher than the other. They are simply different routes, up the same mountain of awareness. But what matters most is what you do with what you're given. As the years of childhood unfold, the soul begins to interact more and more with the material plane, and slowly, the original light becomes layered with the beliefs and limitations of the world around you. You take on the energies of your caretakers, their fears, their unspoken regrets, their conditional love. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a whisper remains. A sacred remembrance. A knowing that you are more than what they see. That you came here to learn, yes, but also to liberate. And so, the initiation continues, not just through what happened to you, but through how you interpreted it. Did the wound make you close, or did it make you curious? Did the absence of affection teach you to numb, or teach you to feel more deeply? Did you carry their shame, or begin to question it? These are not questions of blame, they are questions of transformation. Eventually, you begin to see the genius behind the pain. You begin to see that your childhood was not a mistake, it was the curriculum. The people you longed to change, they were your mirrors. The rejection you couldn't explain, it was your soul's way of pointing you back inward. The emptiness you tried to fill, it was a space waiting for your own presence. And the beauty of it all is this: you didn't need to do it perfectly, you just needed to make it through, to survive, to remember enough of who you are to keep walking. Because that, in and of itself, is the completion of the initiation, not the absence of wounds, but the discovery of meaning within them. Now, from this place of clarity, you can honor the place you were born into, not by denying the pain, but by understanding its purpose. You can forgive, not because they were right, but because your soul is ready to be free. You can reparent yourself with the love you never received, and in doing so, you become the bridge. The one who breaks the cycle, the one who turns pain into power, the one who finds sacred meaning in the very wounds that once made you question everything. Because now you see, your childhood wasn't just something that happened to you, it was the forge where your soul began to awaken. The word soulmate carries so many expectations in the world you're returning to. It's often painted in stories and songs as the perfect lover, the missing piece, the one person destined to complete you. But now, from the space between lives, your understanding shifts. You see the word not as a fantasy, but as a frequency, a sacred contract, a truth that predates time. Because in spiritual terms, a soulmate is not defined by romance or perfection. A soulmate is any soul who has agreed to meet you, to awaken you, to walk beside you through the terrain of your evolution, whether for a moment, a season, or a lifetime. Some of these souls come wrapped in love that feels effortless. Others come through struggle, triggering the parts of you still clinging to illusion. But all of them arrive with purpose. And that purpose is not to make you whole, it's to remind you that you already are. You begin to sense the difference now between the various types of soul connections. A soulmate is someone whose energy mirrors a deep resonance with yours. They reflect back forgotten parts of your essence. Their presence feels like a return, even if you've never met them before. A twin flame, on the other hand, is different, rare, intense, often mistaken for romance, but rooted in polarity. They are your cosmic counterpart, the other spark of the same original soul essence, split across dimensions for the sake of learning through contrast. Encounters with a twin flame are usually catalytic, burning away false identity and drawing forth deep transformation, but they are rarely smooth. The fire is not always meant to last forever. Sometimes it exists solely to burn away what is no longer real. Then there are karmic ties, connections born not of harmony, but of unfinished business. These relationships often feel magnetic, unavoidable, and emotionally charged. They bring you face to face with old patterns, unhealed wounds, past life echoes that still need resolution. While they may feel dramatic or consuming, karmic ties are usually designed to be temporary. Their purpose is not to complete you, but to teach you, to hold up a mirror you've been avoiding. And then, there are life partners, souls who may not feel like destiny at first, but who become companions on the long road. They offer steadiness, safety, growth. They are not always the most passionate or dramatic, but they are often the ones who help you become more fully yourself. Sometimes a soulmate is a life partner, sometimes they are not. The key is in the resonance, not in how long they stay, but in how deeply they impact your becoming. Not all soulmates are romantic. That is perhaps one of the greatest misunderstandings. Some soulmates arrive as friends, those rare connections that feel instantly familiar, even if you've just met. Others come as mentors, siblings, children, even strangers who appear in a single moment that changes your life forever. The bond isn't defined by labels, it's defined by energy. By the way your soul stirs in their presence, by the unspoken remembrance that passes between you, like a current beneath the surface. Before you incarnate, you often meet with these souls. You feel the agreements rise to the surface, like soft waves. I'll meet you at this point, one might say. I'll help you remember, I'll challenge you, I'll love you in a way that brings you back to yourself. And you say the same in return. There is no desperation in these agreements, no clinging. Only clarity, only love, the kind of love that transcends form. When you do finally meet them on earth, there are signs, subtle but unmistakable, a recognition that goes beyond the eyes, a comfort that defies logic. Sometimes it's immediate, a sense of having known them for centuries. Other times it takes time to unfold, but the feeling is always the same. This soul has touched me before. You may finish each other's thoughts. You may dream of them before they arrive. You may feel an energetic pull, even across distance or time. And when you're with them, something inside you relaxes, like finding a frequency you didn't realize you'd been tuning into all your life. But soulmates do not exist to rescue you. They are not here to fill your voids or erase your pain. They are here to walk with you, sometimes holding your hand, sometimes holding your shadow. They will not always say what you want to hear. They will not always stay. But they will always, always serve your evolution. This is what makes recognizing them so profound. Because even when the relationship challenges you, even when it pushes every button, you sense the sacredness underneath it. You see how their presence is designed to reveal something in you, to break something open, to wake something up. It's not always easy, but it is always meaningful. And even when it doesn't last, the impact echoes. You may part ways in the physical, but the soul bond remains. It becomes part of your frequency, a thread in your becoming, a light in your story. Sometimes, meeting a soulmate doesn't mean entering into a relationship. Sometimes, it's a glance across a room, a few days of conversation, a shared silence that rearranges you. The soul does not measure love in time, it measures in transformation. As you prepare to re-enter the world, you do so knowing that some of these souls are already waiting. You may forget their faces, but your soul will recognize the vibration. And when it happens, when you lock eyes with someone and feel the past, the future, and the eternal all at once, you will remember, not everything, but enough. Enough to say, even if only in your heart, there you are, I've been waiting for you, and that moment, however fleeting or long-lasting, will be a sacred return, not to another person, but to a truth you never really forgot. Long before you meet them in the physical world, your next soulmate is already known to you in the space between lives, not in name or appearance, but in vibration. Their energy is familiar. Their presence reaches you like a soft echo across dimensions, as if the soul itself remembers a melody it hasn't heard in a long time. You don't need to search for them here. They arrive naturally, drawn by a resonance deeper than thought, a frequency match encoded into your very being. This isn't about romance, status, or fantasy. This is soul-level alignment, a mutual recognition. Before you even begin mapping out the next incarnation, you sense them. Perhaps not clearly, but you feel their frequency, what they carry, what they long to heal, what they're ready to experience. And you feel into your own readiness as well. Are you prepared to open? To trust? To love more deeply? Or to release more gracefully? To grieve without closing? To stay soft in a world that may try to harden you? These questions are not rhetorical. They shape the foundation of your next soul agreement. Because soulmate connections are never random. They are never accidental. They are always rooted in an intentional, spiritual contract. We will meet again, and when we do, we will awaken something in each other that cannot be awakened alone. Sometimes this agreement is forged around love, pure, vast, and overflowing, a reminder of what divine union feels like in human form. Sometimes it is forged around pain, not to harm, but to uncover, to heal, to expose the very places in you where truth is still afraid to shine. In every case, the connection serves as a mirror, a catalyst, a doorway back to the deepest part of yourself. You may agree to help them learn trust, by either embodying it fully or breaking it, so they must rebuild it from within. You may agree to walk with them through loss, so they can learn that grief is not a breaking, but a revealing. You may choose to be the one who sees them when they no longer see themselves, or to be the one who leaves so they can learn that they are whole even without you. These are not decisions made from cruelty. They are made from courage, from love in its purest, most devotional form. There is nothing superficial about this choice. When you agree to be someone's soulmate in the next life, you are not agreeing to simply hold their hand. You are agreeing to hold their evolution, to offer your presence, your challenge, your tenderness, your silence, whatever it is that their soul most needs, and they are agreeing to do the same for you. You may decide to trigger each other, not for drama, but for depth. Because triggering is one of the fastest ways the soul brings buried wounds to the surface. You'll see it in how easily you misunderstand each other, in the intensity of your reactions, in the feeling of both wanting to run and wanting to stay. But if you can hold through the storm, if you can stay conscious in the fire, the gold that emerges is transformation unlike any other. Or you may decide to heal each other, to be the first one who stays, the first one who listens, the first one who loves without agenda. Sometimes, the most profound soulmate agreements are not flashy, they're quiet, consistent, subtle in the way they rearrange your nervous system and teach your body what safety feels like. That too is a spiritual victory. That too is sacred work. There are even times when the agreement is about letting go, about crossing paths only briefly, perhaps only for a season, but leaving such a deep impression that it shifts the entire trajectory of your life. Not every soulmate is meant to stay, but every one of them is meant to leave you more awake than they found you. And then there is the beauty of unfinished soul business, the love that didn't get to flourish, the apology that was never spoken, the loyalty that was betrayed. These energies don't disappear when a life ends. They carry forward, not as baggage, but as momentum, as longing, as evolution waiting to happen. And when your soul meets theirs again in this sacred space, there is often a pause. A moment of recognition. We didn't finish our story last time, and so, you choose to meet again. Not to repeat the same mistakes, but to move through them, to give that love a new expression, to speak that truth you never had the chance to say. to finally complete what has been unfinished for lifetimes. This continuity of connection, across centuries, bodies, and experiences, is what makes soulmate relationships so potent. Because even when you don't consciously remember the past, your souls do. And that memory becomes the soil from which your next growth will bloom. Sometimes you'll agree to meet in joy, sometimes in adversity, sometimes as lovers, sometimes as friends, sometimes even as adversaries who secretly vowed to help each other rise. The roles may change, but the essence remains. We are here for each other's becoming. And so, when your soul selects your next soulmate, it does so not from fantasy or wishful thinking, but from a place of reverent knowing. It feels into what is possible, what is necessary, what is sacred. It chooses not the easiest path, but the one with the clearest resonance, the one that will open you further to your own essence. And when that decision is made, you both know. Even if it's never spoken again until your next life, the contract lives in your energy fields. It will guide you to each other, not through logic, but through synchronicity, through dreams, through strange familiarity, through a feeling that you are not meeting for the first time, but remembering something you never quite forgot. And when that moment arrives, when your eyes meet across time again, your soul will know. It's you. We're back. Let's begin. In the physical world, time can feel heavy, long, uncertain. You count years, measure milestones, and often wonder, when will it happen? Why hasn't it happened yet? But from the soul's vantage point, time is not linear, it's not a race, and it's never random. Everything unfolds according to a rhythm far deeper than the clock. What you experience as delay is often divine precision, because when it comes to meeting the soul you've chosen before birth, your next soulmate, timing is everything. The truth is, your souls have already agreed on the crossing point. It might not be on your birthday, or during a highlight reel moment. It could be in an unremarkable place, on a rainy Tuesday, at the grocery store, or halfway across the world. But the meeting itself is never accidental. It is woven into the fabric of your journey like a luminous thread that tugs gently as you move closer to it. You may feel it without knowing what it is, a restlessness, a pull, a quiet knowing that something is coming, even if you don't know what. That pull is synchronicity at work, little nudges that make no sense to your mind but feel undeniably right in your bones. You take a different route home. You say yes to a last-minute trip. You leave a job, start a hobby, move to a new city. These choices might seem random, but they are your soul's way of recalibrating your path toward that destined encounter. It's not coincidence. It's soul-guided GPS, and the more you listen, the more you align with it. But sometimes, it doesn't feel that simple. Sometimes, one soul awakens before the other. You may be ready, wide open, spiritually aware, searching for meaning in every moment, while they are still asleep to their path. This can feel heartbreaking. You may meet someone and feel everything, the pull, the depth, the soul recognition, only to find that they can't meet you where you are, not yet. And that's where the most profound surrender is required. Because the soul never forces, it invites, it beckons, but it honors readiness above desire. If they're not ready, it doesn't mean the contract is broken. It means the timing is still ripening. It means that your growth is still unfolding. You're not waiting for them to change. You're being prepared for what the connection will require. And sometimes, they are being prepared through experiences you may never see, but that are essential to their awakening. When you feel that longing rise up, when your heart aches to meet the one you already know on the soul level, remember, nothing real is ever lost. No true soulmate is ever late. The crossing will come not when you want it, but when you are both attuned to the same frequency, when the moment can serve both your evolutions, not just your desire for union. So you learn to live in trust, to surrender not to passivity, but to alignment. You keep listening for the nudges, you follow the flow. You clear your own channel so that when they arrive, you are fully present, not clinging, not projecting, but meeting them from the wholeness you've cultivated in the waiting. And when that meeting happens, when the invisible clock strikes that sacred hour, you'll know. Not because the world stops spinning, but because your soul will feel like it just took a breath it's been holding for lifetimes. That's how you'll recognize the moment. That's how you'll know divine timing has done its work. It's easy, once you arrive in a physical body, to feel overwhelmed by the world around you. The era, the chaos, the limitations of your culture, the weight of history, the rapid pace of technology, or the heaviness of inequality. You might wonder why you were born into this particular moment. Why now? Why here? Why this society with these problems? But from the soul's perspective, your incarnation wasn't random, it was deliberate, chosen, designed with care. Because Earth is not just a planet, it is a school. And every class, every era, every culture offers a specific curriculum for growth. You didn't just choose your parents, you chose your time period, your geography, your political climate, your generational consciousness. Your soul looked at the Earth, saw its intersecting timelines and energies, and asked, where can I learn what I most need to learn? Where can I offer what I most came to give? Maybe you chose to be born in a time of disruption, when the old systems are crumbling and the new ones haven't yet formed. That's no accident. You knew the instability would awaken urgency within you. It would force you to claim your truth faster. Maybe you chose to incarnate in a country grappling with deep collective trauma, so you could become part of the healing. Or maybe you chose a seemingly quiet culture, where the lessons would be internal, about simplicity, patience, or the value of subtle transformation. No matter where you land, every society is its own energetic classroom. Some teach you how to speak up, others teach you how to listen. Some show you what oppression feels like. Others show you how privilege numbs. Some force you to confront injustice. Others lull you into comfort and ask whether you'll choose to awaken anyway. None are better or worse. They're just different frequencies, different doors into self-realization. There's also a layer deeper still, your contract with collective karma. Every generation has its burdens and its breakthroughs. When your soul chooses a particular generation, it's not just choosing a birth date. It's choosing to participate in a specific karmic wave. Perhaps you came to help break cycles of environmental destruction, or to challenge inherited beliefs around gender, race, power, or spirituality. Perhaps you're here to usher in a new way of being, to be a bridge between the world that's dying and the one being born. It's humbling when you realize that some of your personal struggles aren't just yours, they're collective. You carry pieces of a much larger puzzle, and yet, your individual healing ripples outward. Every time you forgive, love, or rise, every time you embody a new vibration, you shift something in the field. You are not just learning from the world around you, you are helping rewrite it. And yes, there are times you'll feel out of place, like your soul is older than the time you were born into, or like your heart remembers a rhythm this world has forgotten. That, too, is part of the choice. Sometimes, you incarnate into an era precisely because it doesn't feel like home. Because your presence, your frequency, is the medicine. So when you question your place in the world, remember, you're not here by accident. You chose this timeline. You chose this culture, not for what it is, but for what it can help you become. Your soul never truly forgets, even when the veil of incarnation lowers and the details of your past lives fade into shadow, something deep within you remembers. It's there, not as memory, but as pattern. As a feeling you can't explain, as fears that seem disproportionate, dreams that linger too long, and moments of déjà vu that shake you to your core. These are not accidents, they are clues. Threads from the soul, quietly pulling you toward the remembrance of why you came here. If you've ever asked yourself, what is my purpose? What is the point of all this? You're not alone. But the answers you seek are already all around you, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be noticed. Start with your fears, not the superficial ones, but the deep-rooted ones that have followed you since childhood. The fear of abandonment, the fear of being seen, the fear of failure, of judgment, of not being good enough. These aren't just psychological imprints, they are often the residue of unresolved soul lessons. If you've always feared speaking your truth, perhaps in another life you were silenced for doing so. If you carry a terror of losing loved ones, maybe you've experienced that kind of loss again and again across incarnations. These fears are not weaknesses, They are invitations. They mark the very places your soul has come to heal. Then there are the dreams, not just the ones that come at night, but the ones that won't let go of you, the visions you carry, the longings that return no matter how many times you try to dismiss them. The idea you had as a child that still makes your heart race. These, too, are sacred messages. They are echoes of your soul's original blueprint, guiding you back to alignment. Don't overlook them. Don't label them impossible. They're not random, they are memory. Life will always try to distract you with noise, but your soul speaks in repetition. That's why the same emotional themes keep returning, why you attract the same kind of relationship dynamic, or find yourself stuck in the same loop of self-doubt, or triggered by the same core wound. It's not a glitch, it's a map. These emotional patterns are breadcrumbs, tracing back to intentions your soul set before you were born. You came here to understand this, to transcend this, to finally shift this vibration. The challenge is not in discovering your purpose. The challenge is in recognizing that your purpose is already being lived, through your challenges, your gifts, your desires, your pain. You don't have to find it, you just have to decode it. Begin paying attention to what keeps showing up in your life. What are you repeatedly drawn to? What kind of people do you attract? What triggers your deepest emotions? What choices do you keep avoiding? These are all signs, pointing toward your soul's mission. Practical reflection helps. Journal about your recurring dreams. Trace your life's biggest emotional patterns. Ask what your core wounds have taught you, and what they still might be trying to teach. Sit in silence and ask your higher self, what did I come here to remember? Then listen, not with your ears, but with your being. You already know. You've always known. The clues are everywhere. In your childhood fascinations, in your heartbreaks, in your longing for something more. All of it is part of a pattern, one your soul chose, one your heart is trying to follow back home. Trust that even your confusion serves a purpose. Sometimes, the greatest clarity comes not from knowing the plan, but from honoring the mystery while listening closely to what repeats. There comes a moment on your path, quiet, unassuming, when something inside you shifts. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, what was my soul trying to show me? That shift is everything. It's not the end of pain, or the beginning of perfection, but it's the moment you step out of the story of victimhood and into the truth of soul authorship. You remember, you are not just the one living this life, you are the one who chose it. And that remembrance changes everything. Because when you understand that you selected these parents, this body, this path, these trials, and these loves, not to suffer, but to evolve, you stop seeing yourself as someone being tested, and begin seeing yourself as someone being initiated. You reclaim your story, not by rewriting the past, but by understanding it from a higher vantage point. This is not spiritual bypassing, it is spiritual integration. It does not deny pain, it dignifies it. It sees trauma not as deserved, but as something the soul believed it could alchemize. It sees heartbreak not as failure, but as a portal into deeper love. You begin to heal, not just by processing emotions, but by remembering that there was meaning in all of it. Even in the moments you wouldn't have chosen consciously, especially there. Spiritual remembrance is not an escape from life. It is a deeper presence within it. You begin to walk through your world with new eyes. You see people not just as personalities, but as souls, playing roles they agreed to long before you met them. The ones who hurt you, the ones who saved you, the ones who challenged you so deeply that you cracked open, all of them were mirrors, and your response to them became your becoming. When you live with this kind of awareness, your power returns. Not the kind of power that controls, but the kind that creates. You begin to write the next chapter differently. You stop waiting for the world to change, and instead shift your own vibration. You stop blaming your past for your limitations and start thanking it for your clarity. You stop running from pain and start transmuting it into purpose. You remember that your soul didn't just choose once, it is choosing still. Every day, in every moment, you are choosing how to respond, how to see, how to hold what arises. And in that awareness, you become free, because you realize, even now, you can choose again, a new belief, a new story. a new relationship with your past, your body, your emotions, your future. You live with reverence, not because life is easy, but because it is sacred. You breathe with more intention, you speak with more compassion, you make choices not from fear, but from alignment. You carry your pain differently, not as a burden, but as a torch, and you trust, more deeply than ever, that your soul knew exactly what it was doing when it brought you here. Because now, finally, you remember, you came here to wake up. What if everything you thought was random wasn't? What if the very people you cried over, the pain you tried to escape, and even the childhood you sometimes wish you could rewrite were not accidents, but agreements, not punishments, but pathways? What if you chose it all, long before you ever took your first breath? It's a radical thought, one that shakes the foundations of everything you've been told, because for most of your life, you've been taught to believe in chance, that you were born into a family without meaning, that relationships happen or fail due to luck or timing, that the people who hurt you were simply cruel, that the love you never received was just missing. But beneath the surface of all those stories is another truth, a deeper, quieter, more powerful one, and it begins the moment your soul lets go of the body and remembers. You didn't fall into this life, you stepped into it, you selected its shape. Not every detail, not every choice your human self would make, but the blueprint, the framework, the contracts. The people, including the ones who would leave you, the ones who would change you, the ones who would love you with such fire that you'd have no choice but to awaken. And yet, you forgot, that was part of the deal too, the veil, the amnesia, so that love could feel real again, so that healing could be earned, so that awakening would mean something. But now, in this moment, right now, that veil is lifting. Something in you remembers, maybe not fully, maybe not clearly, but enough to feel that your life has never been random. Enough to know that some part of you has been guiding the whole time. And the truth is, your soul didn't just choose your life. It chose your parents. It chose your wounds. It chose the people who would mirror what you needed to heal. And yes, it chose your soulmate, not the fairy tale, not the fantasy, but the soul who would awaken you in a way no one else could, the one who would come not to fix you, but to reveal you to yourself. You may have already met them, or you may still be waiting, but that meeting is already written, not in a script of fate, but in the energy of alignment. It doesn't happen when you want it to. It happens when your soul is ready, when their soul is ready, when the lessons you each agreed to experience can finally unfold through each other. And here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes your soulmate breaks your heart wide open. Sometimes they come not to stay, but to ignite. Sometimes they teach you how to love by not loving you back. Sometimes they help you rise by walking away. And even then, it's sacred, because the bond is not defined by how long they remain. It's defined by how deeply they stir your remembrance. You chose them, just as they chose you, long ago, in that quiet space before birth, in the place where souls gather and whisper, "This time, I'll find you again, and when I do, we'll remember." This is the hidden map beneath your life. This is the story you forgot, but it's not too late to remember. Not too late to feel the deeper truth vibrating beneath every struggle, every connection, every synchronicity you couldn't explain. You are not lost, you are not behind, you are not broken. You are a soul in motion, a consciousness unfolding, a divine being remembering itself through the beauty and chaos of the human experience. And if you've ever wondered why you feel things so deeply, why love terrifies you as much as it moves you, why certain people feel familiar in ways that logic cannot explain, it's because none of this is new. Your soul has been here before, and now, it's waking up. Because once you remember that you chose your parents, your soulmate, your timing, your pain, and even your mission, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What now?" You stop running from your wounds and start listening to them. You stop waiting for someone to save you and start realizing you were never lost. You came here to live awake. You came here to love without needing. You came here to feel fully, to remember completely, and to create a life that reflects the truth of who you really are, not who you were told to be. And the beautiful part? You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to remember every detail of the plan. You just need to trust the tug, the quiet voice. The knowing that keeps returning no matter how many times you've doubted, because that voice is your soul, and it's calling you home. What if everything you thought was random wasn't? What if the very people you cried over, the pain you tried to escape, and even the childhood you sometimes wish you could rewrite were not accidents, but agreements, not punishments, but pathways? What if you chose it all, long before you ever took your first breath? It's a radical thought, one that shakes the foundations of everything you've been told, because for most of your life, you've been taught to believe in chance, that you were born into a family without meaning, that relationships happen, or fail, due to luck or timing, that the people who hurt you were simply cruel, that the love you never received was just missing. But beneath the surface of all those stories is another truth, a deeper, quieter, more powerful one. And it begins the moment your soul lets go of the body and remembers. You didn't fall into this life, you stepped into it, you selected its shape, not every detail, not every choice your human self would make, but the blueprint, the framework, the contracts. The people, including the ones who would leave you, the ones who would change you, the ones who would love you with such fire that you'd have no choice but to awaken. And yet, you forgot, that was part of the deal too, the veil, the amnesia, so that love could feel real again, so that healing could be earned, so that awakening would mean something. But now, in this moment, right now, that veil is lifting. Something in you remembers, maybe not fully, maybe not clearly, but enough. Enough to feel that your life has never been random, enough to know that some part of you has been guiding the whole time. And the truth is, your soul didn't just choose your life, it chose your parents. It chose your wounds, it chose the people who would mirror what you needed to heal. And yes, it chose your soulmate, not the fairy tale, not the fantasy, but the soul who would awaken you in a way no one else could. The one who would come not to fix you, but to reveal you to yourself. You may have already met them, or you may still be waiting, but that meeting is already written, not in a script of fate, but in the energy of alignment. It doesn't happen when you want it to. It happens when your soul is ready, when their soul is ready, when the lessons you each agreed to experience can finally unfold through each other. And here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes your soulmate breaks your heart wide open. Sometimes they come not to stay, but to ignite. Sometimes they teach you how to love by not loving you back. Sometimes they help you rise by walking away. And even then, it's sacred, because the bond is not defined by how long they remain. It's defined by how deeply they stir your remembrance. You chose them, just as they chose you, long ago, in that quiet space before birth, in the place where souls gather and whisper, "This time, I'll find you again, and when I do, we'll remember." This is the hidden map beneath your life. This is the story you forgot. But it's not too late to remember, not too late to feel the deeper truth vibrating beneath every struggle, every connection, every synchronicity you couldn't explain. You are not lost, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are a soul in motion, a consciousness unfolding, a divine being remembering itself through the beauty and chaos of the human experience. And if you've ever wondered why you feel things so deeply, why love terrifies you as much as it moves you, why certain people feel familiar in ways that logic cannot explain, it's because none of this is new. Your soul has been here before, and now, it's waking up. But even as your soul begins to remember, your human self might resist. That's okay. Doubt is part of awakening too. You've spent an entire lifetime being told that power lies outside of you, that authority, love, meaning, even redemption must be earned or found through someone else. So when you begin to feel the truth rising, the truth that you chose this life, this path, this curriculum, it can feel overwhelming, even triggering. Because if you chose it, then what does that mean about the pain, about the trauma, about the people who disappointed or destroyed you? How could you have chosen that? But here is the paradox your soul understands. Pain is not a punishment. It is an initiator. Suffering, when met with awareness, becomes sacred. It becomes the fire that burns away illusion. And sometimes, The fastest way to remember who you are is to experience everything that you are not. You didn't choose pain for the sake of pain. You chose the potential for awakening that pain could offer, the opportunity to transmute it, to rise from it, to turn your scars into light. This is not romanticism, this is spiritual technology. The soul doesn't grow through perfection, it evolves through contrast. And if you really look back, you'll see it. The moments that broke you also shaped you. The people who triggered your deepest wounds also revealed your deepest truths. The seasons where you felt most lost were the ones that quietly set you back on your path. That's not coincidence, that's curriculum. This is Earth School, and you came here to learn at the highest level. But you didn't come alone. There are souls who have walked beside you for lifetimes, some in love, some in conflict, some in silence. You've met them before, you'll meet them again. Not because of karma in the way you've been told, not as punishment, not as debt, but as continuation, completion, choice. Soulmates are not always sweet, but they are sacred. The one who broke your heart may have done so because your soul needed to learn that your worth isn't defined by being chosen. The parent who withheld love may have unknowingly forced you to find a deeper source of it within yourself. The friend who betrayed you might have been carrying the contract to show you what self-trust looks like. And if it feels hard to accept that you agreed to this, remember that you didn't agree to the pain itself. You agreed to the possibility of awakening through it. You said, "Let me remember, no matter what, let me return to who I really am," and you are, right now, in this moment, with every breath, you are remembering more. The world around you may not reflect that yet. You may still feel like a stranger in your own life. You may look at your circumstances and wonder how you could have ever chosen this. But the soul does not choose based on comfort. It chooses based on capacity, and yours is greater than you know. There are energies in your life right now that are not mistakes. The relationships that keep repeating, the emotions you can't quite shake, the longing that shows up in the quiet moments. These are all signs that something in you remembers. Something in you is calling out from beyond time, from the place before birth, from the version of you that never forgot. You didn't come here to be small. You didn't come here to play roles, obey rules, or numb your truth just to fit in. You came here to break patterns, to close karmic loops, to awaken the next level of your being. You came here to bring a specific vibration to Earth, a frequency only you carry. And every challenge you face is not blocking that frequency, it is refining it. The soul doesn't measure success the way the world does. It doesn't care about titles or timelines. It cares about expansion, alignment, remembrance. So when life stretches you, good. When love breaks you open, good. When the path disappears beneath your feet and you're forced to listen deeper, good. Because it means the story you came here to rewrite is no longer tolerable in its old form, and that is the beginning of liberation. So now, let yourself remember. Remember the soul who chose this life, the one who chose these lessons, the one who chose your next soulmate, your next parents, your next evolution with full awareness, not of how easy it would be, but of how necessary it would be. This is the return. Not to some mystical future, but to the truth that has always been humming beneath the surface of everything you are, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you feel it, the old story starts to fall apart, and once that happens, your real life finally begins.